The Holy Gospel, as it is recorded in John. After Jesus said this, he looked up to heaven and said, Abba, the hour has come. Glorify your only begotten, that I may glorify you, through the authority you've given me over all humankind, by bestowing eternal life on all those you gave me. And this is eternal life, to know you, the only true God, and the one you have sent, Jesus the Messiah. I have given you glory on earth by finishing the work you gave me to do. Now, Abba, glorify me with your own glory, the glory I had with you before the world began. I have embodied your name to those you gave me from the world. They were yours, and you gave them to me. And now they have kept your word. Now they know that everything you have entrusted to me does indeed come from you. I entrusted to them the message you entrusted to me, and they received it. They know that I really came from you. They believe it was you who sent me. And it's for them that I pray, not for the world, but for those you've given me, just as all that belongs to me is yours, and all that belongs to you is mine. It is in them that I have been glorified. I am in the world no more, but while I am coming to you, they are still in the world. Abba, Holy God, protect those whom you have given me with your name, the name that you gave me, that they may be one, even as we are one. This is the gospel of Christ. According to experts, an interesting side effect of the current public health crisis is the increasing number of people who report that they are experiencing exceptionally vivid dreams. Apparently, all the extra decisions we are making each and every day during this pandemic lockdown, should we do this or that? How can we do this or that? Do we really need to do this or that? What shall we do instead of this or that? Well, these extra questions, they pile up in our minds, and our brains are maxing out. Dreaming is our brain's way of coping with all these questions or sorting through the events of our days. Now, I'm not exactly sure how taxed my brain is these days. If I'm honest, my brain feels a bit toned down or almost numb these days. So it could be just that reading the article about vivid dreams caused me to have a particularly vivid dream the other night. Not surprisingly, I was dreaming about returning to the way things used to be. You know, way back when. It's hard to believe it was just about 3 months ago when we were all busy making all sorts of plans. You know, those plans which we are also very fond of making. Back then, I had most of this year all planned out. Church priorities, tick. Speaking engagements, tick. Vacation plans, check. Things I wanted to do and people and places I wanted to see, check, check, check. And then one day, I was here in my house, canceling all those carefully laid out plans, dreaming of the day when I could get back to making plans again. Well, in this vivid dream of mine, I was sitting in front of a giant wall calendar, and there were days and weeks and months all blacked out. And I sat there in front of that blacked out calendar and I was weeping because it was all so black. And I picked up a pen and I tried to put something on the calendar and nothing happened. And so I grabbed a blank piece of paper and I checked to make sure that the pen was working. Well, the pen was working just fine. So once again, I tried to put something on the calendar, and again and again and again, but there was nothing. Just days and weeks and months all blacked out. And out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of a big new eraser. Now, I haven't actually seen an eraser for years, but there it was, a big pink eraser with sharp new edges, and I picked it up and I set about rubbing as hard as I could, trying desperately to erase the blackness from this calendar. But as hard and as fast as I rubbed, the blackness simply would not budge, and my arm became weary and my grip on the eraser began to weaken, and I was barely rubbing at all when suddenly the blackness began to fade to gray. So I rubbed a little more gently, and as I rubbed, flowers began to emerge, and then birds, butterflies, green grass, daffodils, until one by one each square upon the calendar gave way to a vision of creation in which vivid colors emerged into visions of such beauty which leapt off the calendar and danced all around the room. When I awoke, I felt a lightness in my being before I began to remember the details of my dream. And lingering over a strong cup of coffee, I pondered the contours of this dream as I began to move beyond the dream and into a vision. Abba, the hour has come. Glorify your only begotten, that I may glorify you, through the authority you've given me over all humankind, by bestowing eternal life on all those you gave me. And this is eternal life, to know you, the only true God, and the one you have sent, Jesus the Messiah. And this is eternal life, to know you, the only true God. For years, I thought of eternal life as a quantity of time, and I confused eternal life with life everlasting. It is only in the past decade or so that I have understood the real meaning of eternal is actually limitless. Limitless by definition cannot be time-bound. Limitless has no beginning and no end. Limitless is larger than we can imagine and smaller than we can imagine. Limitless is farther than we can see and closer than we can see. Limitless is not quantitative. It is qualitative. So if eternal life is not about life everlasting, then what exactly might the gift of eternal life be? One of the qualities of the eternal, which I have come to understand, is the limitlessness of grace, which comes to us as an integral part of life. The gift of breath itself is pure grace. Nearly 14 billion years of evolution have resulted in the cosmos producing human life. Our very being is a miracle of grace, and each and every breath we breathe is pure gift. We are living, breathing, walking, talking, thinking, loving miracles. The breath that flows through us enlivens and empowers us. This breath is the spirit of all life that emanates from the one who is the source of our being. The eternal quality of our life, of all our lives, is knowing. Knowing. To know is to experience deeply. The ancients understood this as the essence of what it means to be human. To be human is to know. The anonymous gospel storyteller, which we call John, puts into the mouth of Jesus words that I am only beginning to know, to experience deeply. Jesus said, "And this is eternal life, to know you, the only true God." The words translated from the Greek as "to know" are the same words used in the scriptures to describe the intimacy of love-making. This is eternal life, to know, to make love to God, the divine mystery, who is love itself. Eternal life is a quality of living which shares a deep intimacy with the one who is the source of our being. Knowing the presence of the I Am, the one who is, wakes us from our distractions. Knowing the I Am is a daunting way to be. The renowned interpreter of myths, Joseph Campbell, warns us that we must be willing to get rid of the life we have planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. I realize that the life I planned for myself back then, before this lockdown began, that life is gone. It's not postponed, it is gone. But I'm beginning to know that there is a life, a new life, waiting for us here, now, in this place where we find ourselves. All around us, the sheer magnitude of creation's beauty has the power to awaken us to the intimacy and wonder of the lovemaking in which the source of all that is continues to engage in with creation itself. If we let go of the life we planned, the life which is bursting forth all around us has the power to draw us into life eternal now. The eternal quality of living draws us into this intimacy in ways that can inspire such joy. But this eternal quality of life can also draw us into a love which pierces our hearts. As the news of ever-increasing death tolls pierce our consciousness, we begin to envision new ways of being in the world. When I recall the various plans which once drove me from day to day, I realize that this isolation has provided a much-needed Sabbath. It may not be a Sabbath of rest, but it is a Sabbath of return, a kind of retreat from what was into a place of what is, from which we can begin to dream of what might be. There are things we need to pay attention to in this Sabbath of retreat. What are we being called to notice, to learn, to imagine, to prepare, to dream, as what gives way to what might be? Lingering over my morning coffee, I looked out as rain fell gently upon the grass, and never before has the grass been so green. Beyond the colors, I see an image of the one who is the source and ground of being, weeping like a prodigal parent tormented by wayward children who have lost their way. Eternal life is not all sweetness and light. Limitless love demands a kind of attention which opens us to the pain of all those with whom we share this precious life. Love-making is a kind of knowing which can break your heart, just as surely as it can cause our hearts to race with a passion for intimacy. To know the sacred, the divine one, is to see our Creator weep, to feel the pain of illness, violence, oppression, greed, destruction, and death. The temptation is to look away, to protect our fragile hearts, and to fill our days with distractions, to flee from eternal life, from this knowing which brings such intensity. Tears like rainfall of torrential proportions are falling all around us. This gift of eternal life, this knowing, this lovemaking is intense. Such deep intimacy with the one who is the source of all being is not for the faint of heart. But this intimacy, this eternal life, makes the flowers smell so sweet and the bird's song sound so sublime. Yahweh, our Creator, the great I Am who am. I am here, now, right here in this Sabbath of retreat, rejoicing, weeping, longing, singing, dancing, grieving, shouting, playing, living, waiting, touching, dying, rising, laughing, crying, feeding, loving, in, with, through, and beyond you. I am here. To approach intimacy with the one who is, was, and evermore shall be love, is life eternal. To make love with the sacred, the divine, the Holy One, that's eternal life. Life without limits, light beyond light, light which penetrates our distractions, a light which shines on the beauty and the pain of life, all of life, with an intimacy which opens us to a way of being which is eternal. I am here, Yahweh, I am who am. May you know, may you experience deeply the power and intimacy of eternal life here and now and always, as you awaken to the one who is love, awaken to what is, so that you may dream of what might be in this one beautiful life in which we live and move and have our being, in, with, through, and beyond, our lover, beloved, and love itself. Amen.